Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere, including those with whom we disagree. I just got a yogi tea tag that read, "Compassion is the fountain of forgiveness."
Well, the people we disagree with, they especially should have the peace.
Amen, sister. So we are cruising along through the poems of Meister Eckhart. And if I am not mistaken, and I well may be, but if I'm not mistaken, the poem we're about to read is "The Wind Will Show Its Kindness."
I like that one.
Is that where we left off?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Okay, very good. Well, Heidi, are you feeling in a reading mood?
Certainly.
Okay.
The wind will show its kindness. A man born blind. Okay, let me start over. A man born blind can easily deny the magnificence of a vast landscape. He can easily deny all the wonders that he cannot touch, smell, taste, or hear. But one day, the wind will show its kindness and remove the tiny patches that cover your eyes. And you will see God more clearly than you have ever seen yourself. The wind will show its kindness. A man born blind can easily deny the magnificence of a vast landscape. He can easily deny all the wonders that he cannot touch, smell, taste, or hear. But one day, the wind will show its kindness and remove the tiny patches that cover your eyes. And you will see God more clearly than you have ever seen yourself.
When I was first diagnosed with macular degeneration, I wrote a poem, and it's about, that was in 1975.
My goodness.
And I was wondering if there was another way of seeing. And there is.
Ah, can you tell us more about that, Jude?
I would have to read the poem to you, and I don't have it.
It's quite all right, dear. We understand about how difficult it is to express spiritual things. So don't feel troubled by it at all. It just filled my heart with joy to hear you say those words, and there is. Yes, there is. And it's the vision of the heart. Mhm. That's how I hear it, or I see it.
I I think it's like some things you see through a pane of glass, and you think that you see them very clearly. But then when the moisture collects on the glass and makes it cloudy, you may see them in a different way.
Yes. Anyone else have anything to say about what June is saying or about the poem itself?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear. Yes, Swayam. Suddenly we don't hear you.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. I was saying that I have started to pay closer attention to how the poets, and in this poem, he pivots from the first two stanzas where it is third person, like he, a blind man born, and he denies, and then he shifts to, it'll remove the tiny patches that cover your eyes.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm kind of trying to understand why that pivot. Um, Obviously, I mean, it's applicable to all of us that we need to turn inwards, where you cannot perceive it through any senses, including sight. Um, and the grace will remove that, and then we can see more clearly. I understand that part, but I don't know if there's anything to that shifting from he to you. Maybe nothing. I'm just overreading, but
Well, and as has been said many times, there is no right answer to how a poem should be read or heard. um, my thought in reading this is that he didn't want to seem accusatory when he was stating this fact that in a sense we're all born blind. Because at the end of the poem he says, then he shifts to the you after he talks about kindness. The patches that are covering your eyes, that are keeping you blind as this person who could deny the vast landscape and so on. He personalizes it so that the message comes clear to us that it is our destiny to see clearly, because these tiny patches that are rendering us blind at some point will be blown away by the wind of grace. And this is the wind or breeze of grace is a metaphor that's used over and over again by the saints. It's used by Sri Ramakrishna It's used by others. The breeze of grace is always blowing. So I think the pivot is so that he doesn't seem accusatory in the beginning, but he seems welcoming and certain of himself in saying that you will come to this clarity of vision. When Sri Ramakrishna was first encountered by a boy, a teenager named Naren, who became Swami Vivekananda, who became the teacher who brought our version of our tradition to the United States. When Naren first encountered Sri Ramakrishna, he asked Sri Ramakrishna the question that he'd been asking holy people all along and not getting a straight answer. He said, "Have you seen God?" And Sri Ramakrishna says, "Yes, I certainly have seen God. As a matter of fact, I see him more clearly than I see you." So of course I heard the echo of that when I read this poem, that you will see God more clearly than you have ever seen yourself. Because it's a different, as June pointed out, it's a different kind of vision. It's not the physical vision. And I'm really glad you brought that up, June. And perhaps you can find that poem and read it for us next week. If you're moved to do that, I think I can speak for the group in saying we'd love to hear what you had to say in that poem. Anyone else have anything to say about this? The wind will show its kindness.
Namaste, everyone.
Hello there, Barton.
Hello. Hi, it's Bart. I have a few things I observed from this. I wanted to maybe connect the dots. Maybe you can help me. I'm thinking of, pardon me, the wind in Judeo-Christian terms would be like the ruach, the Holy Spirit of God moving. And it's interesting, he says, a man born blind, and then in the next stanza, he links up the other four senses
Mm-hmm.
to being blindness in terms of, okay, he's blind with vision, he can't physically see the landscape, and he also can't touch, taste, smell, or hear. And so there's the verse in Matthew where Jesus mentions in chapter 6, he says, the eye the lamp of the body. So then if your eye be clear, your whole body will be full of light.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. And I've always had that tied to the idea of the third eye in the process of initiation and illumination. And one day the wind, the Holy Spirit, will show kindness and remove all of the impediments to vision and clarity, and you'll see God more clearly than you see yourself, which is the ego or the small I. You'll recognize yourself as part of the capital S self. But anyway, that's just something I
Beautifully put,
observed.
and thanks for the references. Yes, the wind is used that way by David in the Psalms, and it's used as in that sense in the in the four Gospels. So thank you. That was
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you.
anyone else? And now we come to perhaps my favorite of Meister Eckhart's poems. Bart, since you were just talking, why don't you read this one? A
Okay.
flame burned well.
Okay. A flame burned well. A flame burned well and kept its country warm. There weren't many inhabitants in that world. A spider lived in a cozy web in the corner of the window. She felt the warmth from the candle on the sill and slept better at night. And they visited sometimes, three moths, and pressed against the pane. I look out from onto God. So read it again. A flame burned well. A flame burned well and kept its country warm. There weren't many inhabitants in that world. A spider lived in a cozy web in the corner of the window. She felt the warmth from the candle on the sill and slept better at night. And they visited sometimes three moths and pressed against the pane. I look out from onto God.
Go ahead, Bart. What were you going to say?
I don't think I need to touch that one for now. I need to think it over. I need to let it register a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you. It's a flame. A flame burned well and kept its country warm. There weren't many inhabitants in that world. A spider lived in a cozy web in the corner of the window. She felt the warmth from the candle on the sill and slept better at night. And they visited sometimes three moths and pressed against the pane. I look out from onto God. Okay. So now I'm muted.
Okay. Anyone else have anything else they want? Anyone have anything they want to say about this?
It makes me think of Charlotte's Web,
Mm.
but I also really I like it just because of the way it feels. Before I even start to think about what Meister Eckhart might have been trying to say, it's just it's cozy, it's lovely, it's that last line is kind of tricky. I look out,
Yeah.
pressed against the pane, I look out from onto God. Uh, press against the pane, I look out from onto God. It's like looking out of this window. I don't know whether the eye is the person as the spider. Uh, no, I don't know. It's just interesting. I look out from onto God. It's like looking out onto the manifestation of God, but looking out from within this sort of little heavenly space.
Well,
It's,
one of the reasons that this so appeals to me is that I get this very real sense of the monk's cell in which he lived. You know, the monk's room in which Meister Eckhart lived. And as he said, there weren't many inhabitants in that world, in that little room from which he looks out onto God. And when he speaks about the spider and that spider's cozy web, and it's a female spider, he knows that. And this candle is the light, I think, that Bart was speaking about before. It's the light of being that is in that room. The only thing I've never been quite, it just has never clicked in terms of understanding. It doesn't need to. I feel and see them. Are the three moths. Three is always a very, for any Christian, three is a very pregnant number. And so I don't know. But
Maybe they're the three wise moths.
the three wise moths or the Trinity.
Well, they are outside the window, though. The spider's inside where the
Right.
candle is inside.
Mm-hmm.
It's cozy inside. But every once in a while, these three moths come to, because they're drawn to this light.
Yes.
But yet, the speaker is looking out from the inside of this space, out the window, onto God.
Mm-hmm.
So God's not inside, God's outside, but God's both. Right. I don't know. It's tricky, but it's wonderful.
Well,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I like it is it's
Yeah.
there's a tremendous amount in this very small poem.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
this poem reminds me of that Scottish blessing poem that you read and then put in the Christmas message.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly the two lines, and may the light shine out of the two eyes of you, like a candle set in the window of a house,
Mm-hmm.
bidding the wanderer come in out of the storm. So maybe the three moths are, this candle is like a light that is giving that, the wanderer, bidding it.
Well, the moths are drawn to a flame. There's no two ways about this. I mean, and it is if they're able to reach the flame, it will be the end of their corporeal existence. Although there's a beautiful poem, I can't remember which of the saints wrote it. Maybe Saint John of the Cross.
I think it is Saint John of the Cross, Brother Shankara.
Yeah,
I read
about the moth being consumed in the
yes,
flame,
yes.
but not really consumed, only its corporeal existence. So these three moths are prevented from. This is one of the things that why that line is still is an unresolved delight for me, is that they're not able to come in. Hang on just a moment. Someone, are you coming in to join us? Oh, please sit down. We have a new roommate here. His name is Akash, and he's moved into the room where Aditya lived, and before that John Schlink lived, and so on and so forth. It's been a place of wonderful residence. So this is Akash.
And so maybe it wasn't the three moths' time to, so maybe the three moths it wasn't their time to go,
Right.
Like you said, I didn't realize, I just thought of that. If they were able to get in, they would perish.
Yes.
So maybe it wasn't their time. And then that last stanza there, I look out from onto God. Maybe he's just saying he sees God in even the moss, even
Oh, I think that's
the
absolutely
littlest of
true.
creatures,
Yes,
so that's
yes,
what I hear there.
yes. But the pain, it's that separation, that just that little bit of separation from in this case, that I look out from unto God.
Right.
The moths are clearly part of the divine as far as he's concerned, as this spider, as is the candle. But like I said, when I first read this poem, I just got this real strong sense of this small room in which Meister Eckhart lived, perhaps in Paris when he was invited there to teach and so on. Who knows where, but anyway, it was just a moving thing. Thank you, Heidi. I think that was right on, that he's seeing everything as God. That would be like him, wouldn't it?
And your context of the monk in the small room or cell puts this, I can imagine it now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that helps me visualize maybe what he's saying.
Thank you.
So thank
Anyone
you for
else?
that.
Brother Shankara, the lines from that poem of St. John of the Cross on the flame and the moth,
Mm-hmm.
the flame called the moth, but the glass pane was there. How many have died, not in the fire, but in the cold, crazed in longing?
Ah. Now, who lived first, St. John of the Cross or Meister Eckhart? I think Meister Eckhart was earlier than St. John of the Cross. So he may well have known this poem. Yeah, because it was St. John of the Cross was in the 1500s, right? And Meister Eckhart was in the 13th century.
Yeah, 1260, Meister Eckhart, 1260 to 1328.
Yeah, and St. John of the Cross was in the 1500s, the 16th century. I believe that's correct. Interesting. Thank you, Swayam, for looking that up, because there may be a direct connection between the two poems. Anything else from anyone about it? Oh, this next one shows Meister Eckhart's sense of humor. Who'd like to read it? Why so many souls? All right, I'll do it. Why so many souls? When were you last really happy? Let that experience ferment. Bring it to mind once in a while. Surely in the genesis of that past moment, when you danced, you would not have wanted a constable to have knocked on your door or have said, "You have just entered a restricted ground." Why are there so many stars and souls with no end in sight for them? Because nothing can interrupt God when he is having fun creating. Again, this is a poem in two pieces. Why so many souls? When were you last really happy? Let that experience ferment. Bring it to mind once in a while. Surely, in the genesis of that past moment, when you danced, you would not have wanted a constable to have knocked on your door or have said, "You have just entered a restricted ground." Why are there so many stars and souls with no end in sight for them? Because nothing can interrupt God when he is having fun creating. My sense in this poem, when the first part is about when we create, when were you last really happy? And the reason I think that's so is because of the word Genesis. Surely in the genesis of that past moment, when you danced, you would not have wanted a constable, the mind, the restricting mind, the limiting mind. You would not have wanted a constable to have knocked on your door or have said, you have just entered a restricted ground. Then turns to from us as the reflection to what is reflected. Why are there so many stars and souls with no end in sight for them? Because nothing, no constable, no limitation, nothing can interrupt God when he is having fun creating. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Anybody else have anything they want to say about this poem? For the rest of you who read this or just heard it, if this is the first time you'd heard it, who is the constable as far as you're concerned? Who is that constable that you wouldn't have wanted to have knocked on the door or said, you've just entered a restricted ground? Who is that for you? When you're happy, what is it that you don't want to have come and put a limitation on you?
I think sometimes it's even a little sense of guilt. Why am I so happy and not everybody is happy? That is sort of could be a constable that is telling me, you know. And also, I like this poem because it kind of connects me to seeing this whole thing as a movie, that God is just having fun. And, you know, I don't know why, but it a little bit more
Yes.
easier for me to connect to the movie aspect of life.
Well, that is the witness position. Seeing it all as this movie or stage play that's taking place in front of us. Certainly, sage after sage recommends that perspective because it avoids attachment and aversion. This is something taking place in my presence, and I'm just watching God having fun creating. Anybody else got a mumbling word to say? Nobody else wants to fess up to who the constable is for them? I I would made it clear that for me it's the left mind. Wait a minute, you can't go there. That's not right. like you said, so I am. I'm not much prone to survivor guilt, as you just said. Why am I happy and nobody else is happy? But I certainly understand that perspective.
I think I've been ignoring the constable since I was a child, so
Well, that's good.
it is good. It's got me into some tight spots before, but
Yeah, and it's resulted in some magnificent songs too.
that too.
So this next one is a long poem that really has a lot to say about the spiritual state from which Meister Eckhart speaks. It's probably this perspective is probably one of the things that got him in trouble with the constable or with the authorities. Why he had to say, okay, you guys, if you're going to bring me to the Inquisition, I'm out of here. So, who would like to read Jerusalem?
Me, I love this poem. It's one of my
Please do,
favorites.
dear. Yes.
Okay, Jerusalem. A hand in my soul can reach out and touch Jerusalem, as my other hand tastes the beauty of the Rhine. And my bare foot can stand upon the holy ashes of rain, each drop a fallen phoenix that sang out from the fire of union with clay. The hills, the valleys, the beasts, the vineyards, the sacred meadows on our earth and body, they shall pass and ascend as all form does, tiring of the space within a cage. For all crowds the soul but the infinite. Ascenders to God we are. Look though how we enrich this planet with our melting organic shadows. Wondrous shadows are all but he. What a womb God has. What wild love he must have made to himself for days and days without stopping, to have given birth to all you can imagine and to all you cannot conceive. Draw a circle around the frontiers of space. Barely can God fit a toe there. All language has taken an oath to fail to describe him. Any attempt to do so is the height of arrogance and will always declare some kind of war. The inner thoughts that undermine our strength and the outer conflicts that maim red. I cried out one night in the madness of separation from love, in the madness of doing, of trying to add to the perfect. For perfect is all. The awakened heart is like a luminous sphere, just giving without any thought, just giving without thought to any who may come close or gaze at it. The soul becomes blessedly lost to all but its own holy being. When we cannot be who we are, our divine senses become mute and sick from the insanity of judging what he made immaculate. Who must God have made love to in order to have given birth to all this sound, to this sacred spectrum of color, sense, and music from the wind's body, and existence's plea for mercy, that plea for the real mercy, unbearable joy. Once we had 4 legs and tails, so useful to balance our raid into heaven, and I found them again. I am a swimming galaxy tonight. Angels prowl around me, hoping I will toss them a fresh piece of light. Here, dears, here, my sack is full. The universe rents space from me, and oceans are drawn from my well. How can that be? For I can touch Jerusalem, while my other hand tastes the beauty of the Rhine. Yes, I can kiss Jerusalem, while my mouth tastes the wonders of the Rhine.
It's long, but please read it again.
Oh, yeah, happy to. Jerusalem. A hand in my soul can reach out and touch Jerusalem, as my other hand tastes the beauty of the Rhine. And my bare foot can stand upon the holy ashes of rain, each drop a fallen phoenix that sang out from the fire of union with clay. The hills, the valleys, the beasts, the vineyards, the sacred meadows on our earth and body, they shall pass and ascend as all form does, tiring of the space within a cage. For all crowds the soul, but the infinite. Ascenders to God we are. Look, though, how we enrich this planet with our melting organic shadows. Wondrous shadows are all but He. What a womb God has! What wild love He must have made to Himself for days and days without stopping, to have given birth to all you can imagine and to all you cannot conceive. Draw a circle around the frontiers of space. Barely can God fit a toe there. All language has taken an oath to fail to describe Him. Any attempt to do so is the height of arrogance and will always declare some kind of war. The inner ones that undermine our strength, and the outer ones that maim red. I cried out one night in the madness of separation from love, in the madness of doing, of trying to add to the perfect. For perfect is all. The I'm sorry, water. The awakened heart is like a luminous sphere, just giving without thought to any who may come close or gaze at it. The soul becomes blessedly lost to all but its own holy being. When we cannot be who we are, our divine senses become mute and sick from the insanity of judging what He made immaculate. Who must God have made love to in order to have given birth to all this sound, to this sacred spectrum of colors, scents, and music from the wind's body and existence's plea for mercy, that plea for the real mercy, unbearable joy? Once we had 4 legs and tails, so useful to balance our raid into heaven, and I found them again. I am a swimming galaxy tonight. Angels prowl around me, hoping I will toss them a fresh piece of light. Here, dears, here, my sack is full. The universe rents space from me, and oceans are drawn from my well. How can that be? For I touch Jerusalem with my while my other hand tastes the beauty of the Rhine. Yes, I can kiss Jerusalem while my mouth tastes the wonders of the Rhine. I got nothing to say now.
That was a beautiful reading.
Thank you.
Yes, it was.
I love it. I guess you can tell.
Does anyone have anything they'd like to say about it, please?
There's a lot in there to digest.
Yes. It may be the longest poem in the book. I think it is the longest poem in the book.
There are a couple of ones resonate with me, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
I truly agree. All languages has taken an oath to fail to describe him. That's very true. Even comparing to 13th century, when this poet was there, and I think the wars existed in those days too, with religious wars or whatever.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Continuously, it continued. I mean, even today, there is certain parts of the world have, their religion is better than other religions. This war continued all along.
Mhm.
And he's so right about that. Any attempt to do so is the height of arrogance and will always declare some kind of war. That's very true. That really is so touching. And then there is another one, when we cannot be who we are, our divine senses become mute. That's very true. We have been reading so much of Vedanta and all other religions and the meanings and where it takes us. And this is really very true. When we don't know who we are, when we cannot be who we are, and our divine senses definitely get muted. No doubt about that one.
Mhm.
And sick from the insanity of judging what he made immaculate. That is true too. It's these are still continuing even from 13th century to 21st century. It's
Yes.
the power, greed, religion, love. Under the name of those, we create so many wars, so much violence.
Yes.
We humans still don't understand.
Jaime, you muted yourself all of a sudden.
Oh, I'm sorry, by accident. I'm sorry. My finger touched my little mouse. Sorry. Yes. Those 2 points really touched me.
Wonderful. That was wonderful what you said, Ima, and you certainly did point to his observations on the limited.
Yeah,
There's so much observation here of the unlimited also,
that is true.
with which he identifies himself. He identifies himself with the unlimited.
Very true. Thank you.
I think it's really interesting how the poem moves, through this, being limited and, all these natural forms he's talking about that, pass and ascend, tiring of the space within a cage and ascenders to God we are. But toward the end, he talks about once we had four legs and tails, so useful to balance. It's almost like he had to sort of become not a human anymore, but because humans, our thing is language. We want to explain everything with language.
Well, that reflects the very first of his poems. It's in this book.
Yeah.
He became the forest, and
Yeah, so it becomes this more natural animal that's not trying to explain everything and that remembers um, how to balance itself and raid into heaven, and then becomes this. I am a swimming galaxy tonight. It's like now I've got it. Now I'm there, and I'm writing this poem and I'm saying these things, but I'm not really. It's
yeah,
like the speaker becomes God or becomes merged with God at the end because now I can touch Jerusalem while my other hand. And in order to get there to that lack of separation and that infinite consciousness, he had to give up language and
and
kind of
judging.
in judging, yeah, and that part of because language, the was it first came about so that we could name and separate things.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a reflection of the buddhi and the ahamkara, our intellect and our sense of separated self.
And this is the awakened heart is like a luminous sphere, just giving without any thought to who may come close. He gets to that point when he's, handing out fresh light. Fresh, oh, my sack is full. Just giving and giving. The soul becomes blessedly lost to all but its own holy being.
Yes. Anyone else have anything they'd like to say about this incredible poem?
I think the lines the universe rents space from me, and oceans are drawn from my well. How can that be? Can be taken as a reminder that we are not this limited being. It kind of shifts the mind um, from the
That's
body mind to the art.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Soyam. He just keeps going back and forth between what it is to be limited and what it is to be unlimited. Anyone else? Thank you, Swayam. That is a pivot point in this poem. Anyone else? Okay, I'll just say a few things. Swami Vivekananda, you've heard, those of you who are part of this lineage and tradition have heard that name. Swami Vivekananda is the one who brought our teachings to this country in 1893. Swami Vivekananda, in his translation and commentary on something called Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, says that the final, before we dissolve into the infinite and there's no longer any sense of self or selfhood at all, that we become omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. And he talks about those things in this poem. One hand can touch Jerusalem and the other the Rhine. He's a swimming galaxy. But the poem talks about at the very end, for I can touch Jerusalem with, while my other hand tastes the beauty of the Rhine. But he starts off by asking, how can this be? And he says, when we're not right, when we're sick from the insanity of judging what he made immaculate, we, in any limitation is to be disregarded. Just giving without thought to any who may come close or gaze at it, which is so close to what Swami Vivekananda wrote in Those Who Love All Without Thinking. Vivekananda wrote. So this is, I think, my own sense of this is that this is Meister Eckhart's self-definition as a realized soul. I mean, there's this, there's such humor. The universe rents space from me, and oceans are drawn from my will. How can that be? Well, because he is totally identified with the divine presence. He is the divine presence. He shares with God that omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience. So that's what I heard and saw when I just the gloss is, there's the comparing of the limited and the unlimited, and the tracking of what happens when we're limited, these wars that start within and without other aspects. And then he talks about the limitations of language. And then he totally identifies with the unlimited. How can that be? For I can touch Jerusalem while my other hand tastes the beauty of the Rhine. Yes, I can kiss Jerusalem while my mouth tastes the wonders of the Rhine. Anybody else got something to say? Well, maybe we can take up this poem next week again, after you've had a chance to read it and think about it. That's my request.
I like that idea.
There's so much here that if we could all read it and take it up as our first, because it's 9 o'clock straight up now. And so if we can take it up next week, just to see if anyone has anything to say about it. And if they don't, then we'll go right on. I mean, obviously, the next poem is the counterpoint. It's like musical counterpoint to this long and involved poem The very next one is he told me a joke. And it's like Bach introducing the theme for the next part of the fugue. So, anything else? Any other lovely thoughts from anyone? All right. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Amen. 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 Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May you go forward in Mother's loving and protective embrace. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be cheerful. And may you have peace of mind. Until the next time we meet, which could be as early as tomorrow evening, or until next week. Any final thought from anyone else? Okay. Well, good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
I think Meister Eckhart kind of left us all breathless with that Jerusalem poem.
Thank you, Shankar.
Well, thank you, June. It was so good to have you back. And dear, if you can remember and wish to, we would love to hear that poem that you wrote about a different kind of sight. I mean, I would really love to hear.
Okay, I'll try to find it.
All right. It doesn't need to be made a project of. I mean, it's only as you're motivated to do it. You have lots of things to
Okay, thank you.
do. All right, dear. Anyone else? Anything? Good night, good night, good night.
Good night.
Everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you for being here, Heidi. It's always a joy to see you.
Thank you, Brother Shankar.
Likewise.
See you tomorrow.
And away we go, as the man used to say as he danced across the floor.